Welcome to Books versus Movies, the podcast where I try to answer the age-old question, is the book really always better than the movie? I'm Yuvia, an actress and book lover based out of New York City, and today we actually have another special episode of Books versus TV series or miniseries, as today we will be discussing From Scratch, a memoir of love, Sicily, and finding home by Tembi Locke, and its 2022 TV miniseries adaptation From Scratch, starring Zoe Saldana, that streams on Netflix. So, hi everyone, welcome back to the podcast. And I know some of you might be thinking, hey, what happened to the production value that we got used to after just 2 episodes? Well, let me tell you all about that. So, I was actually set to record in the podcast studio again today, actually, but I ended up receiving an email about a week and a half ago that everyone who had recording sessions scheduled for March had been canceled as the podcast studio goes under renovations. So I have quite a few episodes I need to catch up on. And I didn't want to wait until the next time I have access to the studio. So we're going back to our old tried and true method of recording straight onto my computer. But you know what? This is vintage. We're going back to vintage OG way of recording these episodes. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. So today I will be talking about From Scratch. From Scratch, a memoir of love, Sicily, and finding home by Tembi Locke is a memoir that focuses mainly 3 summers in which Tembi spends Sicily with her daughter Zoella as she begins to piece her life back together after her husband's death. Tembi, when she and her husband originally got married, were kind of estranged from his family. His family did not approve of their marriage, but it was their years-long relationship and his death that ultimately brought them together. So in Sicily, Tembi learns to cope with her loss. She gains a newfound family, and there's recipes included in the book, her husband's old recipes. So that's also exciting. From Scratch, the 2022 TV series, tells the story of an artist who finds romance with a chef in Italy, and they embark on a beautiful love story that ultimately leads them to loss and resilience that comes within their relationship. So, right off the bat, I do want to say that the memoir focuses a lot more on the grief and the grieving process after her husband's death, after Tembi's husband's death, and how she learns to heal from that, and the relationship she develops with her mother-in-law, and kind of the sun that comes out after her dark times. And the TV series focuses more on the actual love story, which Tembi is the showrunner, but the story focuses on the love story between Amy and Lino. So Tembi did change. This is still based on her memoir. It is still based on her love story. She just changed the names of her and her family members and her husband. She changed the name of everyone. So Tembi is Amy in the TV series. Saro is Lino in the TV series. So yes, there were some name changes made, but it's still the same story. And like I said, big difference right off the bat is that the book focuses more on grief and the grieving process. We do get an insight into their love story because that is important, but the TV series itself focuses purely on the love, or not purely on the love story, but 7 out of the 8 episodes focus on the love story, and the 8th episode deals with the grief and her going to Sicily to kind of piece her life together and figure out what's coming out after that. So yeah, it's really interesting that I kind of recommend actually watching. So I also want to say right off the bat, it is not a spoiler that Saro/Lino die. It is, the whole basis of the book is the grieving process. So, I guess it's a spoiler for the TV series. Oops. So I apologize about that. Since the TV series does focus on the love story, I guess we don't know that he's gonna die. Oops. Well, I mean, if you've read the book, because the book focuses on that. Anyway. So the book jumps back and forth in time, mainly because since it does focus on the grieving process and how she overcomes her grief, if one is able to overcome their grief. I'm sure that the pain is still there for the rest of your life, but she overcomes her grief as much as one possibly can overcome their grief. And we jump back in time to, like, for example, the start of the relationship, and then we jump forward to, again, she's already grieving his death, and then we jump back and we get a little bit of glimpse into the disapproval with his family. So yes, there's a lot of time jumps. So we get her perspective on her grief and her process, and then we jump back, get a little taste of their love story, and then we go back to the grief, and that's kind of how I told the TV series, which, like I said, I now realize is a spoiler, so I apologize for that, is told in chronological order, so you have no way of knowing that he's gonna die, so I apologize for spoiling the TV series. But anyway, yeah. So Tembi is an actress. And as I said, this is her memoir. And this memoir was turned into this TV series. She doesn't make any cameos as far as I'm aware of in the TV series, but she is the showrunner. She is the showrunner along with her sister. And I believe so she is the series creator and the showrunner, but she wrote the memoir, and so she had a lot of say in how the story was told. So I think it's really interesting that she decided to focus the book more on her life after Saro's death, and the TV series is definitely a love letter to their love story. So I think that's a really interesting take. But yeah, so there were some changes made. Obviously there's always have to be changes made in this thing, and some changes that are not really important. Like I said, the names of the characters in the TV series are different, but they're all based on Tembi and her family. Her profession is also slightly different. She is a visual artist in the TV series, while, in actuality, she is an actress. So, just minor changes like that don't really alter the story too much. And I think, I'm not sure why they decided to make those changes, but yeah, this is still very much her love story and everything. But yeah, it's really interesting because we get a little bit more of and these little snippets that are in the book of her life with Saro. She actually started off as an actress in New York City before moving to LA, and Saro lived with her in this not very nice apartment in New York before he moved to LA with her. And in the series, we skip New York completely and start in LA, which I think that makes perfect sense why that was changed. It's just a tiny little mention of, like I said, the story definitely the book just has little mentions here and there of her life while Saro was still alive, while the TV series is focused almost exclusively on their love story. So if the majority of their love story takes place in LA, it makes sense to just start the series in LA. Well, it starts in Sicily, but I mean, when they start their journey in the United States, it starts off in LA versus New York. And there's also other little things. For example, in the book, after Saro gets diagnosed with cancer, he has his first round of chemotherapy. They tell the family. So it's almost, he gets his diagnosis, he has one round of chemotherapy, and the family is immediately alerted afterward. So but in the TV series, it isn't until Lino has a health scare that the family is told. So he really wants to keep this a secret. He's hoping he'll go through all the necessary rounds of chemotherapy, he'll go into remission, and the families will never find out that he ever had cancer. That's kind of his hope. But there is a health scare in which he almost dies. Like, he goes through his first round of chemotherapy, and then something goes really, really wrong one day, and it seems like he could die in that moment. And so she breaks down because she hasn't told anyone. She's keeping this to herself. And so once her family shows up and they, they're like, hey, like, what happened? Why is he in the hospital? That's when she breaks down and tells them, like, he actually has cancer. And he, at that point, gives her permission to tell his family that he has cancer as well. So again, I can only speculate as to why Tembi made these changes in the show, but as an actress, she knows the value of stakes and keeping the stakes high. So I'm pretty sure this is one of those things. It amps the emotional stakes. It makes the drama seem a lot more, it just makes the drama seem a lot more like urgent and things like that. So yeah, in Lino Saro / Lino's family do not approve of this marriage. He's an Italian man, she's a Black American woman, and they are Sicilian, and apparently Sicilians are very, very traditional. So like, they always dreamed that he was going to marry like a Sicilian woman and settle down in Sicily and live a very traditional Sicilian life. And that is obviously not the life that he chooses for himself. And so there is a period in time in which his father refuses to speak to him. Like, he breaks off all contact with Saro / Lino, and it isn't until after they get married. So in the book, they get married. They go on their honeymoon in Italy, in different parts of Italy, and Tembi reaches out and says, hey, we would love the chance to see you, make things right. At this point, like, his mom just wants a relationship with her son again. So she like begs her husband to let her see her son. And the husband is like, nope, not gonna happen. And then eventually he gives in and he does go visit his son. The mom goes visit first along with his sister, and then the father comes afterwards. But in the TV series, the mom and the sister they go behind the dad's back and go visit Tembi and go visit Amy and Lino. And as they are in Sicily, Lino runs into his father by chance, and he approaches his father, and his father just walks away because his father's not ready to forgive him. So it's this really emotional scene. Again, these little changes are kind of what amps the emotional stakes of the story. Saro's family and Tembi's family actually met for the first time in real life in Houston. She is originally from Houston, and so there's like this family gathering in Houston, and Saro's family is there. And that's when they meet each other. But in the TV series, they actually meet for the first time in LA once Lino has already been diagnosed with cancer, and the family goes to see him because they're obviously worried that this is, he could die at any moment, or that they're worried that he could die at any moment. They're never going to see him again. So they don't meet in the TV series until after his diagnosis. But in reality, in real life, they actually met way before in a huge family gathering in Houston. As I said, the TV series spends 7 out of 8 episodes on the love story, meeting, falling in love, their family, their marriage, the cancer diagnosis, everything. And the 8th episode is all about after Lino dies, and Amy goes to Sicily to deliver some of his ashes to his mother and kind of form a bond with this woman that lost just as big a part of herself as Amy did. And so she goes there for one summer and begins this process, when in reality, the book actually takes place over 3 summers in Sicily. Tembi goes to Sicily for 3 summers back to back to back. And, you know, the first summer she takes the ashes, she grieves with her mother-in-law, and then the next 2 summers are kind of spent getting to know her mother-in-law more. She wants her daughter to have a relationship with her Sicilian grandmother, and then this just drives them closer. Like, everything that happens in the 8th episode in that one summer actually happens over the course of 3 summers in the memoir, and that includes the mom giving her some of the land that they own in Sicily because she's entitled to it as the wife of the eldest child. The mother-in-law showing Tembi where her clothes are that she wants to be buried in, or if she ever has to go to a hospital, like her hospital clothes, like really intimate moments like that. All of that in the memoir actually takes place over the course of 3 summers, but it all gets scrunched together in the TV series to take place in one episode over the course of 1 summer. So Giuseppe, who is Saro's father, in real life actually died after his own battle with cancer. So yes, Giuseppe, Saro's father, actually died as the result of his own battle with cancer. But in the TV series, Giacomo actually dies of a heart attack shortly after. So as I said, Lino's mom and dad go to LA to see their son, just to make sure they get to see him in case anything bad happens to their son after his cancer diagnosis. And they spend a few weeks there, and then they fly back to Italy. And shortly after they return to Italy, Giacomo ends up dying of a heart attack. So they did change that aspect as well. And in reality, after Saro moved to the United States to be with Tembi, they went to Italy quite often to see his family. This is obviously after once the relationship has been repaired and the family has accepted Tembi and Saro and Tembi's marriage, and everything's fine between all of them. They actually fly back to Italy quite often to see each other. But in the TV series, they never visit Italy after they move to the US. So it really adds to the isolation that Lino feels. You know, he doesn't regret moving to the US to be with the woman he loves, but there's definitely that isolation that he has. He doesn't have his family. He never sees his family, and then he gets diagnosed with cancer and he still doesn't see his family. So again, that's just amping the emotional stakes. This is what TV does. So there is this really funny story in the TV series and the book that ended up happening. So while on their honeymoon in Sicily, or in the TV show, they're on their honeymoon in Sicily. In the book, I think they're just visiting Sicily, but they come across this baker who says, oh, you're an actress. That means you must know Vincent Schiavelli, who was an American character actor. He passed away back in 2005, but he was born in Sicily. He was born in the US, but he is of Sicilian heritage, and that's actually where he ended up dying. But anyway, so Sicilians are apparently really, really proud of their heritage, and so when this baker finds out that, oh, Tembi, you're an actress, that means you must know Vincent Schiavelli. I'm going to give you this cake and you're going to give it to Vincent Schiavelli. He loves this cake. He's bought it for me many times, and you're going to go deliver it to him in LA. And he kind of just gives this cake to Tembi and Saro, and Tembi's like, how the hell are we going to give this cake to Vincent? I'm an actress. That doesn't mean I know Vincent Schiavelli. And Saro's like, well, we'll figure it out. And they get back to LA, and she ends up finding a way to actually get in contact with Vincent Schiavelli and delivers this cake to him. And he's like, wow, this is great. Thank you. So that's a really little funny story that actually happened. But in the TV series, the way they translated it is that, again, they're on their honeymoon, and this man, the baker is like, oh, you have to take this cake to my cousin, and he loves this cake, go give it to him. And Amy's like, how are we gonna give this to your cousin? We don't even know who your cousin is. And he's like, you'll figure out who my cousin is. And she's like, okay, I guess. And they get the cake, and they end up delivering it. They ended up finding out where this cousin is, and they deliver it to this random cousin. So yes, in real life, they delivered a cake to Vincent Schiavelli without any idea how they were going to give it to Vincent Schiavelli. And in the TV series, it's the baker's random cousin that he's sending the cake to. But the random cousin, it ends up employing Amy as an art teacher. So that's kind of a fun little tie-in. Other than that, I don't know how much was focusing on the TV series other than the changes I mentioned that are the only changes I know about, that because they were mentioned in the book. I don't know how much was changed for, like, how much of their love story is dramatized and how much of it is still really accurate, with maybe some dramatization changes made just to keep the story going. So on to my rating. I rated the book 3 out of 5 stars, and I rated the TV series 4 out of 5 stars. So we'll make it official later. But yes, I think I was just a lot more interested in the love story and the way it was told. You know, you see them go through some really difficult times together, really low points in their relationship. But then despite everything that they're going through, this love between them is so beautiful, and you're rooting for them, and you're really hoping that he survives this cancer. So I did enjoy that aspect a little bit more. Like I said, the book definitely focuses more on her grief and the grieving process, and how she learned to cope with the incredible sadness she felt after losing the love of her life. And it was well written and beautiful, and I think it'll definitely help people in the grieving process heal, but I just didn't find it as interesting as the love story itself. So to me, I was a lot more interested in the love story. And like I said, the way it was portrayed was it's just beautiful. And I will say there's this moment in both that's mentioned in both the book and the TV series where, so the very first time that she decides to give Saro/Lino a chance, she ends up falling asleep while he's supposed to go over after work to her apartment that she's staying in Italy. She's there doing a study abroad trip, and he's supposed to go visit her after he gets off of work, and she ends up falling asleep. She wakes up hours later and it's raining really hard, but she looks out the window and Saro and Lino are there waiting for her, and that's the start of their relationship. And this story comes 180 when Saro/Lino die, because she, they know he's in hospice at this point. They know that he could go at any moment, and there are signs that she only has a few hours left with him. She falls asleep, and when she wakes up again, Saro and Lino have waited for her to wake up. He takes his last breath after she wakes up. And it's this beautiful, heartbreaking, poignant moment that I absolutely loved. And I really commend how it was told in both the book and the TV series. In the book, this story is told towards the end during her last summer that she talks about, the third summer in Italy. And we've only gotten glimpses of her beautiful love story. It's still a beautiful love story, but we've only gotten glimpses of it. The book definitely focuses more on the relationship between her and her mother-in-law and her daughter, Tembi and Saro's daughter, the three of them, and how they leaned on each other and overcame this. And definitely focusing more on the mother-in-law and Tembi, simply because Zoella, the daughter, she was really young when it happened, but they're like really little, under the age of 10. But there was obviously a child that young may not fully understand death, but they understand enough of it to maybe be angry or hurt or sad that they no longer have their parent with them. I just think the book was still well written. I still really enjoyed the book, but I was just a lot more invested in the love story and the way it was told. And you could I mean, you could tell that Tembi, I mean, obviously this is her love story, so she cared about how this story was portrayed, and I think it was translated very, very well. And so two different aspects of the same story. One is the before and during Lino slash Saro, and one is definitely the after with glimpses of the before and during. So they both definitely serve the purpose that it's serve the story that it's trying to tell. But yeah, let's make it official. The winner in this case goes to the TV series. That isn't to say that the book isn't valuable in its own right. I just had the way the love story was told. Oh my gosh, so heartbreaking. And I remember when this TV series came out, everyone was talking about it, and I hadn't seen anyone talk about a Netflix series like that in a while. And after watching myself, I can understand why. So they're definitely both worth checking out, but I think the book is definitely geared towards an audience that I, thankfully, at this time in my life, cannot relate to, which is I've lost, I've had deaths in my family, but they haven't been deaths that have really filled me with grief and just like this overwhelming sense of grief that I haven't been able to overcome. So I think maybe if I read it or if I revisit it whenever I do reach that point in my life, maybe it'll speak a little bit differently to me. But for now, like the love story, it's just such like a beautiful love story, and it's so romantic and it's so heartbreaking. So yes, for me, the clear winner in this instance is From Scratch, the TV series. So thank you for tuning in. Next time we will be talking about The Boys in the Boat and its film adaptation, The Boys in the Boat. I don't know why I'm saying it like that. It just feels like it needs to be said like that. Books versus movies. If you enjoy listening to books versus movies, please leave a rating and a review. And everything is done by me, Yuvia. So see you. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next time.